Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hitting Bags and Stealing Balls. Today is Thursday, January 30th. We are getting so close to baseball season. I'm super excited, and so I wanted to do something fun. Now, I've been planning this for a little bit, but I just thought maybe ending the first month of the year, going into February, I'd go ahead and get it out there. I think one of the best parts about baseball is seeing the guys break out, seeing the young kids, whether it be their second, third year, break out, seeing those stars become superstars, and it's the players that make baseball, obviously. And so there's always a couple guys every year that I feel like you don't know, and then suddenly everybody knows them. And then there's the guys that you're watching them, and then you get to see them firsthand become, that superstar that they were maybe projected to be in the prospect rankings. We've got a couple of those that we're going to talk about. So I've got the one player from each team that you need to watch in 2025. Now, I'm going to do the NL in the next episode. Today is just going to be the AL, simply because I'm going to be talking for a while, okay? So I'd rather just do 2 1-hour episodes than one gigantic 2-hour episode, mainly because of the editing. I don't feel like editing that much at one time. But also, just so you can kind of stick with me and not get lost, halfway through the episode. So today's just going to be the AL, and then we'll do the NL at a later time. But still very excited. There's going to be some great names, that you need to keep an eye on. And there's some rules that I broke because I made the rules, so I'm allowed to break them. But I wanted to kind of not make the obvious ones, like you're going to watch Aaron Judge on the Yankees, okay? You're just going to. You're going to watch Shohei Ohtani on the Dodgers. That's just guys like that go without saying. Jose Ramirez on the Guardians, who is still, after all these years, underrated. So if you, for some reason, don't watch him, you guys. Dude, he's the best third baseman in baseball. But anyways, guys like that, you should be watching. So I'm not going to talk about those guys. A lot of these, people I'm talking about are either coming off of injury and maybe I feel like can rebound to what they were before. And then some of them are just young kids that I think are going to take that next step. Or guys coming off of a down year. Really there's a lot of what-ifs on here, okay? So guys that I think have it, but whether it be injury or just, coming off of a down year, maybe their confidence is low. And so I'm excited to share this list with you guys. Hopefully you guys agree with most of them. If not, obviously comment. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. If you're on Spotify listening, give me a follow. Give me a 5-star review. I appreciate all the support, you guys. And I really hope you enjoy this list. I'm going to start doing tier lists here soon, to the countdown to the start of the regular season. And so just stay tuned. I know lately with football, the playoffs, I haven't been posting a lot on the baseball talk, but football season's almost over, and then it's full go baseball, man, and I'm super excited. Baseball is definitely my favorite sport, whether it's just to talk about or to watch, and I have some fun plans going up to the start of the regular season, but honestly, let's jump right into the list, okay? I'm going to start in the AL East just to get out of the way, and I'm going to start with the Yankees. So obviously, the two that you would immediately think of, okay, are Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger. The Yankees went out and got them this offseason. They're both coming off of kind of a down year by their standards, and they're supposed to be the Juan Soto replacement. But I'm not really sure those are the guys you need to be watching. The guy I went with is the reigning Rookie of the Year in the American League, and that's Luis Hill. And he started out really great last year. Okay, obviously great enough to win the Rookie of the Year. His first half, he was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And then the second half, he kind of fell off a little bit. Now, I don't know if that's because of fatigue, if maybe he had, maybe his arm was starting to hurt him. These young guys that come into the league, they have potential to, when they really start getting, up there in innings towards the end of the year, they start to break down a little bit. And, they went out and got Max Fried. So you've got a rotation, Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, who even in of himself is kind of a question mark. But that pretty much is set. But, we have that depth, or we're supposed to. We have Clark Schmidt, and then we have Luis Hill, who the Astros, when they traded Kyle Tucker to the Cubs, it came out, you never know if these rumors are true, but it came out that the Yankees had the chance to trade for Kyle Tucker, and they wouldn't deal Luis Hill. Okay, which I get, Rookie of the Year, he's got some electric stuff, and he could be your ace, 5 years down the line when Garrett Cole retires or is just gone, because his contract's up in a couple years. And so really, Luis Hill, now in his sophomore season, has to prove himself, in my opinion. Can he stay with it? Can he pitch another full season? And was it worth keeping him over going out and getting Kyle Tucker? My immediate thought is yes. Okay? But he's definitely somebody you want to keep an eye on. Next up, the biggest rival to the Yankees going into this season, because I think Baltimore definitely took a step back, is the Boston Red Sox. Okay, and obviously they have a lot of young talent on their team. You could have went Trevor Story, who's supposedly healthy, although ever since he signed that contract with Boston, he hasn't been. I went with Walker Buehler because I thought the Red Sox getting him on a low-risk deal was a steal. Because, yes, he's coming off of injury. He's coming off of one of the worst years of his career, if not the worst. But we know what this guy can be. And even last year, coming off of that injury, he had a horrible regular season. And then in the playoffs, when it mattered most, he was elite. I mean, he was absolutely elite. And I think Boston is going to punch their ticket to the playoffs. And so even if Buehler only pitches 110, 120 regular season innings, which I think is definitely on the low side. Even though he's coming off an injury, I think he's going to pitch more than that. But even if that is what he pitches, if he's healthy for the postseason, that's why they're paying him this money. Okay, and so I definitely think he's a player to watch. I love Walker Buehler. He's a Yankee killer. He has me nervous, because he's not even going to be the ace in that rotation. And so Boston, they're looking good, and I think if Walker Buehler pitches to what we know he can, they're going to be a really scary team, especially for the Yankees in that division. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles, okay? And again, so many young players that you could look at, okay? I'll give an honorable mention to Grayson Rodriguez, okay? Their young pitcher who is supposed to be the real deal. I don't know if he's necessarily an ace, but he's supposed to be a solid number 2 or number 3 starter. He's coming off of a pretty good year, although he did get hurt. And so that was easily, an option. But I had to go with Jackson Holliday. I mean, come on. Obviously, you have to keep an eye on Jackson Holliday this season, okay? Supposed to be the guy, okay? Supposed to be the leader of that club going forward. Even with Gunnar Henderson, even with Adley Rutschman, I mean, Jackson Holliday is supposed to be the real deal. But in 60 games last year, so a little over 1/3 of the season, he hit 189. And look, I get it. You're a young kid. I think he's only 20, maybe. So super young. You're coming up. You're supposed to be the face of a franchise. You're going to be nervous, dude. I mean, don't even get me started on what that would do to me, dude. I mean, it's tough. It's tough, I'm sure, for these young kids. And so I get it. You're nervous. It takes time to adjust to that major league pitching. We've seen it happen tons and tons of times. Even Aaron Judge, his first season up, smaller sample size, but He only hit 179, and then the next year he hit 60 home runs and won Rookie of the Year. So, which Jackson Holliday's not going to be a major power guy. He's basically going to be another Gunnar Henderson. He can hit home runs, but he's supposed to be a 300 hitter. You know what I mean? So, he's going to slot into second base, and it remains to be seen whether or not he's going to be another Gunnar Henderson in that infield. I mean, to have them two up the middle, if Holliday turns into what he's supposed to turn into, then the Orioles are going to take that leap. But I don't know. I mean, 189 over one-third of the season, even if he gets that up to 240, that's still not where he's supposed to be, and that's a big jump. So keep an eye on him. We'll see how he does, you know, whether or not he focuses on hitting lefties versus righties. You know, maybe he's going to be a platoon guy. Rutschman's kind of looking like that, unfortunately. You know what I mean? So we'll see, but definitely keep an eye on Jackson Holliday with the Baltimore Orioles. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays. And this one was pretty easy. Going into a walk year, no, not Vlad Jr. We know what Vlad Jr. is going to do. Okay, so I couldn't pick Vlad Jr. on good faith. Bo Bichette. Look, coming off the worst year of his career by far. Dealing with some injuries. Again, that's a common theme with this. You know, injuries can make guys obviously look a lot worse than they are. I mean, that's just common sense. But he's never really been a dominant fielder at shortstop either. So, does he get moved to second base? I think that's maybe not, because they just traded for Andres Jimenez, but I think maybe if they feel like they're going to trade him, you know, we saw the Marlins do that with Jazz Chisholm last year. Move him around the field. You know you're going to trade him. Show other teams that he's versatile. Put Bo at second. You know, I'm sure Jimenez can play short, dude. I mean, come on. That dude is one of the best fielders in baseball, okay? So, put him at second. See if his fielding gets any better. Because it's just, I don't think he's going to be a shortstop come 2-3 years from now, okay? Especially if he doesn't stay with the Blue Jays. There's a lot of teams that need a solid second baseman, and I think that's probably where Bo's going to end up. But the main thing is, can he get that average back to where it used to be? I mean, he's a 300 hitter every year, pretty much, up until last year. You know, I think he finished around the 250 mark, which still isn't horrible. You know, that's above average in Major League Baseball, which is insane to say. But I definitely think he'll bounce back. Even if he hits 280, 290, people are happy with that, dude. I mean, that's plenty in Major League Baseball. 280, 290, that's where Ohtani sits. You know what I mean? So I definitely think, look to him getting moved to second base at some point in the season, and then I do think he's going to have a bounce-back average year. Which, in front of Vlad and in front of Santander, who the Blue Jays obviously went out and got, he's going to score some runs, dude. So, just keep an eye on him. And then finally in the AL East, we'll end with probably the least exciting team, although you never really know because they flip-flop every year. One year they come out of nowhere, win 100 games. The next year they lose 100, okay? But the Tampa Bay Rays, who won't be playing in Tampa Bay. I think that's going to affect them a little bit. They won't have the dome. You know, it's going to be that Florida weather. It's going to rain a lot. It's going to be a weird season. I think in the rainy season down in Florida, so basically spring, I'm pretty sure like the first 60 out of like 80 games they play are on the road. So it's going to be a lot of traveling. It's going to be tough on them. But keep an eye on Taj Bradley, man. I think I'm pronouncing that right, Taj. Sorry if I'm not. But they have him listed in as their ace right now. Don't know if that's going to stick. Now, they did get rid of Jeffrey Springs. Shane McClanahan is obviously hurt. I don't know when he comes back. He might be ready at the start of the season. I don't think he is, though. But they have him penciled in as their ace. And look, he's coming off of a pretty good rookie season, okay? He has high strikeout numbers, which is always good for an ace. He's basically, if I was to compare him to somebody, I don't know how many people remember Chris Archer. I would say he's Chris Archer 2.0. And you can spin that either way. Obviously, his ERA sat above, high 3s, low 4s most of the time, which isn't quite where you want it to be with an ace. But when he got guys out, it was usually with a strikeout. And I think Bradley fits that profile. He throws heat. We know the Rays bring a lot of pitching up, there. They call up a lot of pitching that just ends up working out. And so I think Bradley, although might be the least exciting out of all the ones I've talked about, is definitely somebody you should keep an eye on for the Tampa Bay Rays. And then we're going to move to the AL Central, okay? And there's some fun ones, I think, in this division. Somehow 3 teams from this division made the playoffs last year, which I'm not sure if anybody had that, okay? But they have some fun young teams, man. I mean, they really do. And I think it's going to be a little bit weaker than it was last year, especially with the Boston Red Sox, taking that next step. And then the Rangers probably going to be back healthy. I don't think we're going to see 3 teams from the Central make it again, but prove me wrong, okay? However, I'm going to start with the team that just won the division and the team that is disappointing a lot of people with the moves they're making. They're trading away. They traded away their entire right side of their infield, which has fans worried, but they're bringing back a guy who's coming off of a severe injury who I think should be fun to watch again, man. And that's the Cleveland Guardians and Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber's the guy you got to watch up there, okay? I mean, he won the Cy Young in 2020. Obviously, that was a shortened season, but, he's pitched at an elite level basically every year of his career. And don't even get me started on the pitching factory that they have there in Cleveland, okay? I talk with my buddy Alex all the time about it, okay, because he's a Cleveland fan. They just, dude, I don't understand who their scouts are, but my gosh, do they deserve so much money. It's just, they trade one away, they lose one in free agency, and it's almost just like a respawn. You're just respawning pitching up there, man. And so I don't doubt that Shane Bieber can go back to, what he was. Maybe not Cy Young level, but at a pretty good level, especially with, how they do pitching up there. There's no reason for me to think that he's lost it. As long as he stays healthy, okay, which is another reason you need to watch him. Because if he gets hurt, then obviously he's done, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But they brought him back on the 1-year deal to see if he still has it. And I think he's going to still have it, okay? They need all they can get right now. It's very top-heavy in that rotation. But, you've got Tristan McKenzie, who is another player that you could easily watch, who's coming off of a horrible year after he had one of the, best recent pitching years, just 2 or 3 years ago. I can't quite remember. But, tall, lengthy kid. I think he'll have somewhat of a bounce back. I don't know if he could reach Shane Bieber heights, but, and then Tanner Bybee obviously was great for them last year. So, basically keep an eye on their pitching rotation. I guess you could really leave it at that. But if there was one thing I'd bet on the Guardians to do right, it would be the pitching. So just keep an eye on, Shane Bieber and the rest of the rotation, honestly. And then next up in the AL Central, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the Kansas City Royals. And this one I'm actually pretty excited about because this is somebody that I've gotten to watch a lot over the last couple years, being from Cincinnati. But Jonathan India, okay? Cincinnati had traded Jonathan India to the Royals for Brady Singer at basically the very start of free agency, the offseason. And that Royals offense is in desperate need of somebody like India. That leadoff hitter that can get on base at a very high level to get in front of Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt, obviously, and then Salvador Perez. That's an elite top 4. If they all perform how they can perform, then that might be all they need to push them to like a actual contending spot for that division. Because right now, I'm still leaning Guardians just because, you know, how they perform year on and year out. They're just consistent. But if Jonathan India gets slotted in that leadoff spot and he's as good, you know, as he can be, then the Royals are looking really good. And he's not an elite defender, okay? You're not going to... I mean, he can field second base, but he's not going to win any Gold Gloves, okay? He's just not. And if he does, then I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, and I should shut up. But I don't think he's going to. But still, keep an eye on Jonathan India for the Royals, okay? I definitely think, especially in that environment, is somewhere he can thrive. Look to him to hit it in the gap a lot. You know, he's not a big power guy, but he can definitely gap the ball. He's going to walk. He's going to score a lot of runs. And so just keep an eye on Jonathan India for the Royals. Next up, the Minnesota Twins. Man, are they a disappointment, dude. I mean, they got Byron Buxton, they've got Carlos Correa, and they just can't stay healthy, dude. And it's like, injuries hurt, but you've got to be able to pivot. You know, when these guys go down with injury, I mean, obviously, either one of them, I could have easily chose either one of them. Because when they're on the field, they're elite, man. I mean, absolutely elite, okay? Maybe not so much Correa anymore, although we've seen that out of him. But Buxton, high power guy, elite defense, one of the best center field defenders, you know, in the league, but they just can't stay on the field. But instead, I'm going to tell you to watch Royce Lewis. Royce Lewis, again, is somebody that can't stay healthy, you know, playing 60 games a season pretty much. But he also took a major step down this year. 2 years ago, in 58 games, he had a 2.6 WAR, which is really good. And, you know, basically 1/3 of the season. He hit over 300. He had a 380 OBP. He had 15 home runs, which is, you know, over a 30 pace, almost a 40 pace. And he's really good defensively at third base, okay? And so, maybe not really good, but he's a plus defender, all right? And so, what can he do if he plays a full season? Now, like I said, his stats this past year went down all the way to a 233. That's alarming. His OBP, 290. That's alarming. But battling injury, okay, like the entire Twins team is, unfortunately, if he plays a full season healthy, I think Royce Lewis could be a superstar, okay? I mean, I really think so. He's only 24, so he's still got years left. And in that lineup, just, man, if they all played healthy, dude, it'd be beautiful to watch. But just, I don't know if it's going to happen. I really don't. But either way, keep an eye on Royce Lewis. Hopefully he can play over 100 games. Hopefully he can get his average back up to around the 300 mark, and he'll be really productive. So just keep an eye on him. There's potential there for sure. Definitely, but you got to stay healthy, man. You got to. Next up, the surprise team of last year. Blew a lot of minds, the Detroit Tigers. All right, and with the Detroit Tigers, I've got a pitcher. And no, it's not Tariq Skubal. Okay, we know what he is. It's the guy behind him. And right now, he's not technically listed behind him on the depth chart. Okay, but I think this guy is going to be the next one up. Okay, it's going to be Skubal, and it's going to be Jackson Jobe. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry if I'm not. But, you know, the number 5 ranked prospect, and we've seen what the Tigers can do with pitching. All right. You know, not very many people remember Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer were Detroit guys. All right. So, they have a good history over the last decade or two. And I think this kid is going to be the real deal. All right. So, you've got Skubal. He's obviously going to be their ace. You've got a couple other guys in front of him. You know, Reese Olson. But I think by the end of the year, we could see Jackson easily take that number 2 spot. All right. And maybe he's going to struggle, but I just don't see it happening. You know, I feel like pitchers versus hitters, I think pitchers, usually dominate right off the bat because hitters aren't used to seeing their stuff. And so I think he's in for a good year. Maybe not elite. Maybe he's not going to completely take off right off the bat. Something like a Luis Hill, have a really solid first half. Once hitters kind of get him, slows down a little bit, but still good enough to win Rookie of the Year. That's what I see Jackson being. Okay, and so I just think that's somebody you need to keep an eye on. All right, and I could easily go Gleyber Torres or Colt Keith, who they're moving to first base, but I just love pitching, man. I love the young pitchers. I love watching them. And so I went with Jackson for the Detroit Tigers. Definitely keep an eye on him. Next up, finishing the AL Central, we have the poor Chicago White Sox. Oh, man. Oh, guys. What are we going to do with the White Sox? There's a lot of ways I could go here. Okay, they're rebuilding once again. I decided to go the pitching route. Okay, because there is one pitcher that I'm genuinely excited to watch, and he's going to get the ability to pitch, okay? Especially for the White Sox, he's going to pitch. Now, last year, he didn't do very good. In 44 innings, he had above a 5 ERA, okay? And I'm talking about Drew Thorpe. I hope that's how you pronounce his last name. It's pretty much a guessing game with some of these guys. But, look, this is somebody that the Yankees traded to the Padres for Juan Soto, and then the Padres turned around and traded him to the White Sox for Dylan Cease. So you could easily spin that in a bad way, like, well, why are these teams willing to get rid of him like that? You know what I mean? Like back-to-back trades. But you could also say, well, these teams have no other choice because maybe that's the top guy that they wanted. Obviously, I'm sure the Padres wanted Michael King the most in the Soto trade with the Yankees, but they could have easily been like, look, we need to have Drew Thorpe. And then the White Sox could have been like, look, we need to have Drew Thorpe if you want Dylan Cease. And so you could spin it either way. I'm not saying he's going to be an ace, okay? He's tall, he's 6'4", which you like in pitchers, okay? But he's not one of the, top-ranked prospects. He's not supposed to be Paul Skeens. I don't expect that out of him, but you're going to get to see him pitch. Can he improve off of that high 5 ERA for a team that's not going to compete? Okay, they're just not going to. So it's really about whether or not he still wants to go out there and show what he can do. And I love when guys do that, okay, especially on teams that don't compete. You're still, playing for that money. You're still playing for that legacy. Show us what you got, okay? And so maybe by the end of the year, he ends up in the number 2, number 3 spot. Don't think he's going to be the ace, but he doesn't need to be. Drew, go out there and show us that on a team that isn't competing, you can still pitch your heart out. I think White Sox fans will be happy with that. So, keep an eye on Drew Thorpe. So, now, finishing off the American League, we're going west. And we're going to start with the Houston Astros. So, look, there's a lot of people you could, keep an eye on the Astros. They're definitely not as good as they have been, okay? I don't care what you tell me. Yeah, they got Christian Walker, okay? But they're not what they were, okay? Especially not when they're, winning the American League for 7 straight years. But there's still some guys you need to keep an eye on, okay? I kind of cheated, which, again, my rules, dude. So, whatever. But I went a pitcher and a hitter, okay? I went on the hitting side, Isaac Paredes, because as of right now, Bregman's still out there as a free agent, but it doesn't seem likely that he's going to come back. And so, this is the guy that is going to replace Alex Bregman in Houston. Now, he's got some pop, okay, which is going to be nice, hitting from the right side. He's a major pull hitter, which I'm sure they knew when they traded for him. Or when they got him in the trade for Kyle Tucker. So that, in left field, that walk comes in a lot. He's going to hit some home runs there. He's just going to. But, can he replace Bregman defensively, who in his age 30 season is coming off of a Gold Glove? Can he get on base? There's some questions with Paredes, okay? He's not very consistent, one half good, one half bad. Especially, I'm pretty sure he was awful with the Cubs last year, which is probably why they were willing to ship him away. But keep an eye on Paredes. I'm not going to talk too much more about him, just because, like I said, there's 2 for the Astros. But it's Bregman's replacement as of right now. So obviously, keep an eye on him. What can he bring to that left side of the infield? Next up, Hunter Brown, okay, who I think is supposed to be a middle-of-the-rotation guy for Houston, all right? He's not going to be the ace, but he's coming off of a much better year. In 2023, he had a 5 ERA in 155 innings, and then last year in 170 innings, he had a 3.4. I mean, that's a big jump, okay? So, look for this guy to keep improving. It's the Astros. They're going to have pitching. Okay, they've got a lot right now that are kind of battling for, the middle of the rotation spot. Okay, and so I think Hunter Brown right now would probably be my favorite. So just keep an eye on him, whether or not he keeps improving or if he kind of takes a step back. Because 3.4 is pretty low, across Major League Baseball. So the odds of him improving on that are low, but why not? So just keep an eye on them too for the Astros. Next up, the Seattle Mariners. And look, the Mariners just disappoint me every year, okay? Their pitching is elite. I mean, dude, they probably have the best all-around rotation in baseball. But the hitting, dude, it's like when they sign guys, when they trade for guys, they just don't hit there. And then the guys that you would think they would go after, to booster their lineup, like Pete Alonso is a perfect example. They just don't go and get them. They don't. But, okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the guys you need to watch. And honestly, you need to watch somebody that I think is overrated. I'm sorry, Seattle fans, okay? Julio Rodriguez. Look, I mean, he was supposed to be the guy. And for the first 2 years of his career, he was up there, okay? He had MVP voting both years. He went to the All-Star game both years. Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. He's only 23. And so I hope he proves me wrong, dude. I want this kid to be a superstar. Okay, he's a plus defender in center field. We all know that. But his hitting has gone down every single year. Okay? Maybe not the power. Okay, he had 28, then 32, down to 20 home runs. Okay, so his second season, finished 4th in MVP voting. So he definitely, you could make the argument that overall that was a better year. But when you look at his stats, from his rookie year to the next year where he hit the 30 home runs, had 100 RBIs, he struck out more. His average and his on-base percentage went down. His OPS plus went down. Barely, but they went down. And then this previous season he's got to bounce back, dude. Especially if you want to be the face of that franchise. Which, to be fair, there's not any hitters doing anything, in front of him or behind him. So I guess I can't fully blame him. Seattle was a rough spot to hit. But coming off of a year where he only hit 20 home runs, he only hit 17 doubles, dude. Which doesn't... that's pretty low. That's less than half of what he averages a season. His OBP was at 325, which, for a superstar, it's been up in the 360s. So it's like his average was 270, which, again, you're happy with. You're not mad about a 270 average. But that's not Julio Rodriguez, okay? And so he did have a much better second half, which he's had every year of his career. I don't know why he struggles in the first half. I don't know if it's just he doesn't do a lot of programs in the offseason, and so he kind of uses spring training in the start to kind of get warm, which superstars shouldn't do. I'm sure that's not the case, but clearly something's going on. But if he can just start off strong, and even if he slows down the second half, if he just keeps it at like a steady pace, this guy can be a superstar, okay? And I want him to prove me wrong. All right, but as of right now, Mariners fans, you should want more out of Julio Rodriguez. Okay, and again, that lineup's not doing him any favors. I get that. But, come on, Julio. Let's see you pick it back up. Let's see you become the face of Seattle. Just a real superstar. You can do it. So let's keep an eye on Julio, and let's see if he can really do it. Next up, with the World Series hangover, the Texas Rangers. Okay, man, they were not good last year. Missed the playoffs. They did have a lot of injuries, okay, but what are the Texas Rangers going to be this year? I think they're going to be a contender. I really do, especially with everybody healthy. Seager, Simeon, they went out. They got Jock Peterson to put at DH. Okay, he's going to add some pop. But I went with a pitcher, and I think most of you can probably guess which pitcher I went with. Jacob deGrom. This is somebody that you should always keep an eye on. One, because when he pitches, he's one of the best pitchers in history. I'm not exaggerating. Look at his stats. Okay, this dude, for 3 or 4 years was absolutely unhittable, dude. It was nasty to watch. But I think his career might be over. He can't stay healthy. Okay, they let him come back last year, which I'm not really sure why, to pitch like the last 2 or 3 starts of the season. And he was healthy, but how long is that going to last? I don't think he's ever going to pitch a full season again. I think maybe if they get 110, 120 out of him, innings, they should be happy with that because he's just not done that lately. Okay, especially if he can stay healthy for the postseason. That's really where you want him and where you need him. But you should always keep an eye on Jacob deGrom, okay? And I really hope he stays healthy, man, because then the Rangers will really, really look good. But if I was a betting man, I'd bet on him to get hurt again. I hate saying that. I don't want him to get hurt again, but that's just what he's become, unfortunately. An honorable mention there in Texas is Kumar Rocker. Okay, I definitely think that's a young kid you need to keep an eye on. Young pitching prospect. He might end up being their ace a couple years down the line. Okay, maybe not. Maybe middle rotation. Maybe he gets moved to the back end of the bullpen. Okay, because his stuff can be electric. But keep an eye on Jacob deGrom. Honorable mention Kumar Rocker. Again, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But next up, the A's. The Sacramento A's, no longer the Oakland A's, whatever you want to call them. And I went with Lawrence Butler, okay, because they have Brent Rooker, who's obviously a solidified power hitter in that lineup. They just signed him to an extension. People love him. The team loves him. Great player, fun to watch, great attitude. Is Lawrence Butler going to be the next Brent Rooker? But younger, because obviously Rooker took a while to break out. Okay, he's already in his 30s. I think he was 29 when he had like his first, really solid season, maybe 28. But Lawrence Butler is, I believe, 24, 25. Okay, he's slotted in to be the right fielder, which I'm not sure. I think he might be able to play first base too. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he can. But, he hit 300 in the second half. He's got the power numbers, the slugging. So, if they get another Brent Rooker in that lineup with all these young kids coming up, to have that 3 and 4 spot, that's going to be fun to watch, okay? And sophomore slumps exist. He could take a step back. But I think being able to learn from Rooker, who, again, took a while to heat up, he broke out, now he's pretty consistent in that lineup. To have somebody like that teaching you, I think can benefit you greatly. And so I would definitely expect Butler to take a step up. I don't think he's going to be a 300 average hitter. I'll say that right now. 260, 270. I would compare him to Chris Davis. Chris Davis is... Everybody, I think, if you're an A's fan or if you just pay attention to baseball, should know who Chris Davis was. Chris with a K, okay, not Baltimore Chris Davis, but consistent 40-homer seasons. He actually was famous because for 3 straight seasons, he hit exactly 247. I think it was 4 seasons, okay? For sure 3. It might have been 4 straight seasons he hit 247. But I honestly, I think that's exactly what Lawrence Butler is going to be. And A's fans should be happy about that, okay? You're probably not because, again, they left Oakland, which I understand the frustration. But if you're in Sacramento, go see the A's at their, new minor league stadium. I think they're going out, they're spending money on pitching. They got Severino, they got Springs, any of those guys you could easily keep an eye on. But I definitely think the guy to watch over there is Lawrence Butler. I really enjoyed watching Chris Davis, just the consistency. And so if he can, and maybe he hits better than that. Maybe he's going to hit 280, okay? But even if he hits 247, the close to 40 homers every year is definitely something to be happy about. So, and now to finish off the episode, getting the AL out of the way, we'll end with the Angels, which probably going to finish last in that division if I had to guess, but maybe not. They've got some young kids coming up, which, again, is the case for a lot of these teams, man. You're seeing a lot in the AL. All the superstars are leaving the AL to go to the NL. That's just what's happening. The NL is so heavy, dude. When I do my preseason rankings of teams, it's probably going to be 5 or 6 NL teams before you get to the AL, okay? But there's some fun kids to watch in the AL. And I went half and half with the Angels. I obviously went Mike Trout. Maybe a full-time DH. Unfortunately, it's just that point in his career. He can't stay healthy. When he's on the field, MVP winner. Okay, we all know who Mike Trout is. I mean, the face of baseball for basically my teen years. Somebody who, if you had the number 1 overall pick in baseball, it was always Mike Trout. Always, okay? That's just who he was. Emphasis on the was. He can still be that, but I don't think he's a full-time center fielder anymore. I think the Angels need to be smart with how they play him, and he needs to stay on the field, dude. Okay, whether that's a full-time DH, he can't quit. I mean, he just can't keep getting hurt, man. I mean, it's hurting his legacy. It really is. And I hate saying that because he has such a great legacy, but you just got to stay on the field. Next up, a name that I'm probably going to struggle to pronounce, but the Angels' first baseman going into the season, Nolan Scanwell. Definitely botched that. Sorry for that. But I think that this kid has the potential to be the real deal. Now, is he going to be elite? No, I don't think he's going to be a superstar. But he played his first full season. Okay, he's only 22 years old. That's the important thing to keep in mind. Okay, he hit 250, which I don't think, for a first baseman, you really can't complain about. There's not many first basemen that can hit, towards 300. He had a 350 OBP, which is excellent. That's exactly what you want out of your first baseman. Can he get on base? Didn't hit very many homers, okay? He's not a power hitter. At least he's not yet. Maybe he unlocks some going into, his third season, his second full season. But he's a good defender at first base. And I just think on a team with Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon, who does have a lot of problems, okay? Again, somebody else that can't stay healthy. They paid him all that money to go over there. He's just been a disaster for them. But them guys have played at an elite level earlier in their career. They can teach you what's going on, okay? You can learn from them two guys. And so look for Nolan to really kind of take a step forward this upcoming season. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think a 350 OBP at 22 years old, good defensive metrics at first base. I think Nolan's going to be somebody to watch. So that pretty much does it for the American League. There were some guys I wish I could have talked more about. especially Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, although I'm trying not to be biased, okay, because I'm a Yankees fan, obviously. I don't like talking about the Yankees too much. That's not why you guys are here. Maybe some of you are, but I'm here to talk all of baseball. That's what I want to do. So there were some guys I wish I could have talked more about, but as you can see, this is still a pretty long episode, one of the longest I've had, in a while, which I love, man. Clearly, I love talking about these, people that you need to keep an eye on, dudes. Whether it's the young kid that can become a superstar or a dominant player in the past coming off of injury. There's just a lot of questions. But early next week, get ready for the National League episode. Okay, I'll go through the National League, a player on each team that you need to keep an eye on. Very excited. And I just appreciate you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoy the next one. Again, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, follow. And I greatly appreciate all the support, you guys. Thank you.